talking about something else other than class for a moment from the topic that we thought we would go on. We'll come back to it, but I always like teaching you something new, which some of you have already seen. So this book, The Flower Essence Repertory by Kaminsky and Katz, I've had it a long time, so long that I ripped the whole book apart and put it in plastic binders so that I could flip through it and wear it out. And I tonight went through, I'll show you this picture. I have boxes and boxes and boxes of these flower essences. Danny bought them for me one year when they were cheap at Christmas time. And right now, when I'm outdoors, I'm having a little bit of sensitivity. Guess what? To the one I tested for, goldenrod. But I wasn't so much looking for my sensitivity as I was looking for what was a good flower essence for everyone tonight. We'll talk about flower essences some more when we start talking about devas and those forms in the unseen world that keep our material physical world together, just like we can't see our soul, except maybe the eyes as the window to the soul, or we can't see our angelics, but there are forms that keep the world bound together. And since we the plant kingdom's all around us and goldenrod is starting to blossom, I thought, well, that's not a bad one for what was going on for us now. And here's the page inside the book. It says that the positive qualities taking the goldenrod essence will help you with are developing a well-developed individuality and an inner sense of self balanced with group or social consciousness. And this fit what I was after tonight in laying out the cards I picked to read tonight for A Hero's Journey. I asked, what hero's journey, what story does this class need to hear tonight? Do we need to hear about, you know, the Avatar story and the tall blue people on another planet? Do we need to hear about, you know, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz? So it's repeating here with goldenrod that we're going to work on the self balanced within the group and social consciousness. And that was what the layout that I put out is what hero's journey do we need to know about the group consciousness that's developing in the world now and how we can help what's developing.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah, you got that? So the patterns of imbalance are easily influenced by group or family ties and the inability to be true to oneself, subject to peer pressure or social expectations. And this is kind of interesting because that's what happened in, let's say, in Nazi Germany, is that people were subjected to peer pressure and social expectations. And I think that we're having some of that now. Several people have talked to me about how they're having troubles being nice to the other political group, the one that they don't see themselves as belonging to, and how they want to strive to be a more welcoming and humane person in order to hold that as their behavior. So I thought, okay, I guess we're all going to have a little sniff of goldenrod this fall, even if we're not living in that country that has it, and work on it. And it says our earliest sense of self unfolds within the context of others, parents, extended family, and community. Gradually, through a healthy maturation process, the soul acquires a clear sense of its individuality. Some souls do not successfully complete this individuation process, remaining too subject to group mores and family ties. These souls need to establish their own inner values and beliefs. Otherwise, their inherent weakness is easily exploited. They tend to be adversely influenced by social pressures and conventions, conforming their behavior to social norms in order to win approval and acceptance. In some situations, such souls will also display antisocial or obnoxious behavior as an extreme measure to acquire a self-image. This is especially true during adolescence. Goldenrod essence helps such persons to find a true relationship to the higher self. I took that as a key sentence for us. It encourages a vertical or individuated axis to counterbalance the overly broad horizontal social axis, which influences the personality too strongly. In this way, the soul acquires a greater strength and an inner conviction, learning to successfully balance the polarities of self and other. And before you go out and buy 900 bucks of flower essences, I want you to realize that you can think about, come on, okay, fine, okay, that you can, that's how you do it, Sue, you're having a brain fart, that you can just look at the flower itself. Most of you know what goldenrod looks like. So I'd like for you to imagine that you were looking at a goldenrod and it's so large that you can actually go into it and maybe get some of the pollen on you, buzz a bee away from it so you can get in there and take a breath of, and can you feel something happening in your energy field? Yeah, you can, can't you? Ask the deva or the angelic that watches over the whole goldenrod family to give you what you need wherever you need it to help you with this vertical individuation axis. Whatever you need to counterbalance the broad horizontal social axis, which has influenced perhaps the personalities too strongly. And then if you can get that for yourself, then you might think about spreading it out around you into the people in your home, the people in your workplace, the people in your family, and just about anybody that will soak it up from where you grounded it into this earth plane. You can just offer it out. That other people, particularly since goldenrod is everywhere, starting to bloom, and really take it in. And let me ask you one thing, how do you feel now? You can feel it tingle and move, can't you? So this is a good example of something that we're going to do further on. One Brain was kind of the 3-in-1 Concepts One Brain picked a lot of techniques from different fields that worked and presented them in a format. And one of the particular fields that they really loved was flower and gem essences, recognizing that flowers, gem essences, colors could really make an effect in the human aura. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment and ask if there's anything you want to say about this. It's
Do we
okay.
have it in Michigan?
Goldenrod in Michigan? Oh, yeah. I've had a couple of you dig them up for me because I'm pretty allergic to them. If I put my hands on them, I itch. And they love my garden.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, but that is what they're about. And each one of the books, each one of the, you could Google the meanings of different flowers. And you don't have to get the Kaminsky and Katz Flower Essence Society book. It just went with all the Flower Essence Society boxes that I got from my honey one year. Also, many of you knew Irene. She died. I got her flower essences were given to me.
Oh, cool.
Very, very powerful tools. And we'll see them more in the future. So that's my little bit on that. And here's my little bit on the, on the cards I picked for tonight. So this deck is the new liminal tarot, liminal, Liminal tarot. You don't have to get one. It just, I mentioned Penny Klein, and this was one of the decks she recently put out. It might be sold on Amazon now. I bought it off of a odd little AECLECTIC eclectic tarot site.
Mm.
They're a site that has lots of pictures of decks. So if you wanted to look at all the cards in a deck, that's one of the places that typically puts up all the cards in a deck. But you don't have to go deck wild like me and have lots of them. Yeah. So in this, the first card down was the stasis. Okay, I'll start again. When you put cards down in a layout, what you were asking is important to think about. So I took a little while to think about, well, what the heck should I ask for a volunteer tonight and tell about their fortunes in front of God and everybody in the California style that I learned, where everybody gets naked in the pool and tells their deepest secrets. But I said, nah, we're not going to do that. Bearing the soul kind of work. We'll do a reading for the group consciousness as a whole. And as I said earlier, much to my surprise, that was the flower essence that I picked through kinesiology, the goldenrod. And it talked about springing ourselves from the prison of group consciousness that we had taken on. And so here in the stasis, it shows the Knight of Swords. And this is an air element. You see the swirly little air here. And it's a guy who's really moving forward fast. And his horse is, there's a sky, a night sky. And so what do you think? This isn't a very much of a stasis card, but it is about the moment that we're in now. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that means as a group of consciousness in the world, we're moving forward pretty quickly.
I like that.
And perhaps it even means that we're also, because we're a knight, we're not as contemplative as the queen, and we're not as naive as the page, and we're not as focused and masterful as the king. But the next card up happened to be the king. In fact, when I looked at the reading as a whole, we got a knight, a king, a king, a king, a queen, a knight, a knight.
Wow.
And I thought, you know, and there's Paige. And I shuffled these things really well. I took the Vegas style where you shuffle them together for at least 7. In Vegas, they say to take a clean deck and shuffle it together 7 times and you get it that much distributed. So there was no way, this was a new deck, that it would have shown up all these face cards. But yet all the face cards showing up told me that, wow, this is about people. The face cards are about people in readings.
Mm-hmm.
This is about people, and there's all of the kings are in here. So the growth for all of us people growing in our consciousness is about taking on the mastery level of ourselves in all 4 of the suits. Air, the swords and the thinking. The discs, and that is the earth and the grounding, the stability. Cups, the mastery of our emotions. And where's the other king? He's in here somewhere. I'll have to look at it in a minute as we go through. Did we get all 4 kings? 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's a queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, but still, it's a high level being in the and she's the Queen of Swords. So we have we have all these we have almost all the swords, and we have a cup, and we have a cup, and we have a cup. So we have 3 of the cup cards, and I thought that was interesting. So part of this reading and this little journey is about our emotions, and part of it's about our thinking, and some part of it is about how we ground in the world. We've got a wand, and we have a wand. So we've got 2 wands, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 swords. So it's obviously about how we think. 4 out of the 13. You get how I'm doing that? So I'm looking at the color on the cards. There's a couple of dark colored ones. There's a couple of reddish ones, yellowish ones. But there's a lot of this blue airy color in here as well. How do we come to our coolness of our thought? Or are we connected to our passions? Or are we connected to our stability? The disc, there are 3 discs in here. And how many of the major arcana cards are there? Well, let's see, there's the sun. Correct me, Brooke, if I miss one, but that's it. We have 1 major arcana, and the major arcana are big markers, and they show that this is something about the development of the highest level of our spirit, whereas the minor arcana, A-R-C-A-N-A, is about our development on the earth plane, in our feelings, our thoughts, our willpower, and our ability to manifest. So I kind of,
Can you say that again about the major arcana?
the major arcana is about growth at a high soul spirit level. And the minor arcana is about how we're living on the earthly plane. And we have a lot of swords, so it's about how we're thinking. We have some discs, which is about how we're going to ground or manifest. We have some rods, not a lot, but 3 of them, and that's how we're going to be creative and what choices we're going to make with our willpower. And the cups are about our emotions. Did I cover everything? So this one really stood out for me over here. This little sun card. I have to count these to make sure I tell you which. Oh yeah, the sun card was about resurrection. How about this cute little card? It shows 2 little people, oh so happy. Most of the sun cards just show 1 little guy on a horse, but look at them in their cute little outfits. You probably have some like that for your kids, Brooke. One's a little fox and one's a little bear, and they're both so happy, and the sun is just jumping with how lovely it is. So the resurrection is 2 equals balance, and children equals our original self in an unspoiled way. It looks like we're going to make it, folks. That was good news. No way. And actually, when it comes to the ascension, the dragon is here beside this guy who's the fire element, and they're looking across to a far future. Interesting, huh? I think we're going to make it. Although,
Does it mean anything that he's on stilts there?
yeah, he's, think about it. What does it mean?
Above the world, above everybody else, above, right?
Yeah, he's at a balanced at a higher level. Did you ever
Higher-
play with
Oh,
stilts
okay.
when you were younger? It gives
Yeah.
you different perspective, different balance. It changes you from the level in which you were on solid ground. It gives you a new level to get balanced in. With
I-
your stilts. I love it. He's got a tail on him too. I thought, wow, he's at a higher level, but he's also an animal self. And it made me want to turn the card around and see his face to see if he had little painted face like little kids get in a, when they go.
Like on the sun card.
Yeah.
Like the guy on the sun card facing backwards.
This one's kind of interesting too. The 9 is shown as having wings going up a step. But look, his little wings are singed by this fire down here.
Mm-hmm.
And there, Annie, that's what you were talking about when we were talking about the ego, and you were talking about how the devil card on your deck had a unique interpretation. And that was the other reason why I picked these unusual deck tonight, is to give you a chance to kind of break your thinking and look at the imagery in the tool that you're using, so you could learn from that. So the 9 is somebody who's escaping, but he's also boldly carrying his own little burning wand. And that is his life with the gift, our life with the gift, and the gift being our development, is that, yeah, we've been burned, but we're also willing to strive upwards, even if we come to what looks like a gate, doesn't it? Or a barrier at the top of the steps. What do you think it looks like? Anybody?
To me, doesn't that looks like that looks more like a gate, but it's full of wands up there. Aren't those wands up at the top?
They are. He's carrying
Fiery wands.
fiery wands. Yep.
Very wands. So I think he's rising from the fire below, and he's rising up towards another level of
Ascension, another level of triumph.
fire, something else that's going to propel him even higher.
Yeah, a new level of learning, perhaps.
Right.
I love looking at the cards and just trying to see what each one of them says. So here we are back here at the beginning, and we're not in a stasis. We're actually moving forward very quickly. The call to adventure is the king. And here he is with all this very active air around him. I think this is a book. He's got some birds. He's got a little bit of armor. I think the call to adventure might mean that we are going to explore our thinking, or explore what our processes are. What do you think? The refusal to call is interesting too. That is the king of discs. And so that's where we're going. But don't I want to be comfortable? Don't I want a new car with all of the chips in it and less gas prices? Just let me be comfortable. Don't make me think about this shit. Just let me be comfortable. I want house prices to go down, and you know, so we're looking in the material world, and that's we don't want to learn anything new.
We want our gas prices to go down, but we also want our electrical cars too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough
Oh.
thing. So anybody else want to say what you think about this? Or are you following how we're having a discussion about it when you work with your clients with this and telling their story? And I've already told about almost all of your stories now. Almost all of you had a one-to-one appointment. And I can tell you from having done them all that you each have something really interesting going on, and they were all different. Some of you have already faced your challenges. Some of you, they're yet ahead of you. But in every one of you, there was a cycle towards something more. I don't know. Anybody want to say anything? I know a couple of you said, wow. And a couple of you, I had to give you some Kleenexes. It was intense. Anybody have anything you want to say? Now this card, 1, 2, 3, the meeting with the mentor. This shows a guy who's carrying a heavy burden of rods or sticks. They're also kind of dead looking. The rest of the wands have little leaves on them, don't they? And they're more brown. And what the heck? It looks like he's walking over, like he's at some sort of let's walk on coals and not burn our feet kind of shaman training.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that when the times I've been asked to walk on coals at these crazy workshops. And then thank God it's not now that I'm older. I probably couldn't make it. I would probably, the older you get, sometimes you question things more.
But that's
There
pretty
he is.
appropriate because you're putting us to work. So that's pretty.
And there's a tower up there, the tower with a lot of fire in it. So I thought that was interesting too, that the mentor is a challenge for you to see what your burdens are. A couple of people asked me, why did we move from the first class, which was all psychological, to this class, which is about archetypes and imageries and the whole cycle? And I said the first class was to invite you to become more descriptive and more specific about your emotions, feelings. We also looked at cycles between body and subconscious and conscious. And this hopefully will give you new words to look at in yourself. So we did look at some burdens in that first class. The next class is going to be something about those burdens again. It's called Identifying and Transforming Self-Limiting Choices. And that's definitely what Annie was saying about, I think she was calling me the mentor and saying, I'm just making you look at your shit. I was like, okay, I can live with that. Anybody have anything they want to say?
We can't move forward unless you help us look at our shit.
Yeah, you got to look
I-
back.
It almost seems like you're helping us get rid of it too, just with, you know, the wands are wood and the fire's ahead, and, you know, we can kind of get rid of some of these things.
Yeah,
Release
and
that.
exactly. And in the first
And
class,
sweet.
you may have wondered, some of you may, I think one or two of you asked me, well, how does that fix it? But the first class, we talked about emotions and cycles. And you know, if you've ever been in talk therapy, sometimes you spend years talking about it. And then one day it kind of gels for you. And some of the premise of this work is that making it conscious makes it clear. It helps it to clear out. And I just showed you something about that with the flower essence, that thinking about some words that supposedly the flower says to you, and then imagining that the flower blesses you, gave you quite a tingle, didn't it? It shifted your field, and your energy field is your body of experience, past, present, future. Cool. Let me see. I also told you that if you wanted to do a reading with somebody, to pick somebody in your class, and that I'd also be happy to be your person. So here in the ordinary world, in the upper part, the persons are looking at the consciousness in the world now is looking at, in a rapid way, what it thinks, how it's holding on. Both these show how it's holding on, and what it may have to do to cross the threshold. When it crosses the threshold, it gets a cup, a pentacle, a sword, a wand, a cup, a pentacle, the sun card, and then it passes back into the ordinary world. So that's why I zoomed out to take a look at that, because what happens soon as we get over the threshold, and I talked about Dorothy meeting Glinda the Good Witch, and when she crossed the threshold, she found herself in Oz. Well, when we cross the threshold, we find ourselves as the King of Cups, the person who must master their emotional life. And so just kind of in, I won't say deference or opposition, but to looking at the mind. We also move from holding on to our material goodies to actually working with our material goodies. and choosing again what decisions we're going to make, but from the yin feminine perspective. So when we get into a non-ordinary world, look at him. He's got these crazy looking eels swimming around him. He's probably under the water. He's got a fish scaly clothing on. It's kind of silvery. So we've moved into a dreamy world of feelings and emotions.
And it's interesting because the cup is gold, but the fish, the eels, are silver, which represents the subconscious. So you get the conscious and the subconscious playing here in the.
Yeah, and look at the crazy little stuff back here that you can hardly tell what it is. It's a dreamy little thing, different from some of the other cards in this deck. It's a very big cup too. Let's see, zoom out. So here we go. The test and the allies turned out to be this very tattooed guy. Look at him. And what's he doing?
Planting.
He's planting. Yep, he's planting. It's the 2, and 2s have everything to do with, let's see, is it a 2? Zoom out. Yeah, it's a 3 because he's got 3 little discs. I think the test may be, what are we planting and what have we written on our beings? What have we written in our bodies, on our bodies? So like I said earlier, I take the deck I'm working with as a divine intervention, for which one I picked up since I have so many to play with. And this is something so new, a person who has writing all over themselves. He's also a Black person. I thought that was pretty cool because that represents someone who is emotional, someone who is in touch with themselves. I think mostly white people write dream books because in the dream interpretation books, they talk about when you dream about someone yourself as being a person of another race and color, that it represents something that's unknown to you, a totally different perspective in being. And I do dream about that sometimes. Do you ever dream that you're a person of another race? I frequently dream I'm a person of another sex, a man, an old man, a young man, a woman, old woman. And since we know from dream interpretation, Jungian Sinoi dream work, Sinoi are Indians in the natives, I won't call them Indians, they're Pacific Islanders who got up every morning and they had everyone gather around and they told what dreams they had. And they based their day for the group based on the most significant dream in the group, whether it was from a child or an elder, a man or a woman. And so when ethnologists found these people, they were extremely interested because, oh my gosh, this is a different perspective from what we're used to out in our busy post-industrial European mindset in the world. Conquer the world, build big buildings. And so I found that interesting in this for me as part of my knowledge system, that here is a person who is doing something that he's planning, and he's so different from the rest of the beings on the deck, although in this deck, they also have quite, oh, it will fit on the screen. They have sometimes beings who are got butterfly wings, or this one is definitely a watery being who doesn't hardly have a body. Here's somebody who's extremely armored. Most of the knights are armored. Even his horses are armored. So I look at all that when I'm looking at something. Have I lost anybody? Does anybody want to say anything about it? Our allies are what we plant. Our tests are what we're planting. what we wish to harvest. And there are two columns. What is he balancing? I'm not sure what the heck the red thing is in the tree.
It's like a fruit.
I think it's just a nice coloring of it. I think it's just a very Monet-like watercolor thing. They kind of look like some impressionist trees in the background, don't they?
Be, you know, like in the band, there's the trees with which already have fruit in it. I'm thinking that might represent like the fruits of his previous labor, and now he has new seeds to plant. So it's, although it could also be interpreted that he's burying his talents.
It could be, but I've been a farm girl, and I think it's interesting. What he's holding here is either dirt or other seeds. So in all my farming life as a child, we would have somebody who would dig the hole. I have 7 siblings. The next person in would put down 2 bean seeds, and the next person in would put down 3 corn seeds, and the next person in would cover it over. And so when I saw him with that, the farm girl in me made some assumptions. Is that where he's digging the hole? Does he have some other seeds in here? What's going on in it? So I hope that I'm also modeling about how part of our interpretation is our inner dream. Much like when therapists teach mandala workshops and they give people paint and crayons and markers, and that's another Jungian idea that Carl Jung would put a circle down and ask people to draw something about whatever they wished into the circle. And then there would be an interpretation of what they put into the mandala, what they put down as their dream. And when you look at artists, or when you go into the galleries or the museums, and you look around, and the purpose is to see how the work, well, how it speaks to you. And some people hate certain work and others love it. Some people go, that Mark Rothko, all he did was make a 12-foot 2 squares of color and on 12 feet, and we're supposed to think that's art. And other people go, oh my God, I love color field painting. I could just stand inside of it and be influenced by it forever. And other people want to see fruit in a bowl. And so so I'm asking you to do something kind of artistic here about looking at what you see and what it means to you. So this is the test and allies, enemies, friends. And then here's the innermost cavern. In that I said about Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, that it was where she was in the witch's tower, and the witch waved her broom around and she showed the flying monkeys picking apart the straw man and making the Tin Man rust, and so on and so forth, running away the Cowardly Lion. And so this inmost cave is the darkest spot, the place where we have our most hidden fear and anxiety. And it's one of those dang swords again that we have to take a look again at our thoughts. How have our thoughts controlled us? And once again, it's all swirly, swirly, formless, one thing and in another. People who are air signs in the zodiac tend to be people who hold a lot of thoughts or strains of thought. People who are earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, do tend to be builders and planters and planners. And they tend to hold the earth magic within their souls. People who are water signs tend to be seen, Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, as more emotive and to have deep subterranean depths that most of us may not know about. People who are fire signs tend to be sometimes fickle and sometimes consumptive, but always creative and interesting to look at or listen to what they're up to. So here we have down here in our deepest layer, and she's sitting on what looks like probably stacks and stacks of books with her grouchy looking little owl. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Me
Anybody?
too.
That's
It's
an owl, isn't
interesting because I would perceive the owl as a symbol of wisdom.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, the innermost cave is not always, well, I don't know. Sometimes it seems like maybe we have to confront ourselves there. But, you know, I don't know, like, are these books a distractor? Like, I personally can relate to that. Like, I don't know that they're really that enlightening, but I read a lot of them.
Yeah, I tend to read to escape. I also read to learn, but sometimes when I don't want to face anything, I read mindless things.
But isn't she usually a symbol of wisdom?
She is, and the owl is a symbol of the goddess Athena. Now, Athena is interesting because she's also always dressed in armor, and she's a goddess of war. She sprang full blown. She gave Zeus a headache, and she cracked open his skull. She was already born with her little sword and her armor on her, but she wasn't quite mature, so he took her and sewed her up in his thigh until she matured more. So the queen of so the owl and Athena, the Greeks and Romans were some of the first therapists with their amazing stories about the gods. So yes, she is representative with the owl of Athena.
I find it interesting that she's sitting on the throne of accumulated knowledge, and she has the owl, which is wisdom, on her left side, which is feminine, which is the feminine side is our left side, and she's wielding the sword with her right side, which is the masculine side.
And most tarot cards for the Queen of Swords show her holding it upright. In this one, she has it piercing the ground. And I found that interesting too, because it's not straight upright, it's in the ground. And so it reminds me of when the Buddha was tempted, sitting under the Bodhi tree, and he was tempted by all the demons and the beautiful women and sex and power, that he took his hand out of his lap and he put it on his knee and touched the ground with his fingers to tell them, I'm here. So anytime that you see people who work in symbology, they've studied it for years. God, I spent 4 years in college looking at paintings. What does this mean? What did the painter want to tell you? How's the perspective? And so I'm used to looking at images in that vein of what does this mean? So for some of you, you may go, what is she looking at it so much for? But the maker made a choice. And what was the choice that the maker made? And that is to show that, yes, she's got the owl of wisdom, and she also has her knowledge or her information, the sword, grounded. So probably as a whole, looking at us as a group of people trying to learn what's next, we may have to be careful that we don't let our wisdom or our information tie us up or get us too off track. And our breakthrough to face our dragon is actually the Knight of Wands. So it's the Knight of Fire, and he's breaking through this ring of fire. And his horse is facing straight forward. not off to the side like the Knight of Cups, but straight forward, coming out of a ring of fire. We'll just call it Johnny Cash. This is actually an image from the Nibelungenlied from Viking stories about the hero rides his horse through a ring of fire to rescue the sleeping Valkyrie who has been put in the fire to keep her from getting out. But this guy is coming out, and look, it's almost like he's got this funny looking lightning flash
Yeah.
that makes a break. So for us, overcoming our dragon is going to be making a huge leap forward past what we fear might burn us. What else do you want to say about that?
Well, I find it interesting that it's coming right after the Queen of Swords, which means once we accumulate the knowledge and the wisdom, then it's time to put it into practice, right? It's time to actually leap forward with it and do something with it.
And that's actually the very next card, which is the Knight of Cups. And he is another, the knights are all about action. The queens are the embodiment of their quality at an emotional level. They're all potential. The pages are all about still learning, and the kings are about the mastery of the quality. So here she has this deep well of wisdom, information, and that is the deepest part of us. And then it moves forward into action twice. Not only do we go past the fires that might burn us or that are active, but we do it in an emotional realm, and he's holding his cup aloft. His chalice, his cup is up. Yeah, he's holding it up. So I thought that was interesting as well. He's making waves too, isn't he?
Yes, making waves.
And there he is on something that's a seahorse, which is an interesting thing. You know, they can switch between being male and female. They share how the male has the little pouch for the babies. So I think that making this choice or reading this in an artistic interpretation, that we could say that the seizing the sword and moving beyond what we fear has to do with something to do with how we nurture others. Am I getting too deep? Do any of you think Sue should just shut up and leave us alone? There we go. And here's the road back. And this shows a young woman, a craftsperson. It's and she has these 8 perfect discs that she's drawn. She has perfected her what she's putting forward, doing it in a masterful way. What do you think of that? Able to reproduce the results over and over again in a worldly place.
I like that. Being able to put it into practice and produce it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the lines and the radiance off of her. That makes me feel hopeful.
Isn't that interesting that after the Queen of Swords, which is the accumulation of the knowledge, now we're putting it into practice into the next 3 elements, the fire, the water, and the earth. I find it very, very interesting that, you know, so that means we would be able to use this knowledge in all 3 elements, in all angles of life, spiritual, mental, and physical.
And then we get our first major arcana card, the Sun, which is the card for in the Lion King, they hold the little Simba up to the light. This is my son. And there it is. If we make a breakthrough, if we share our love, if we ground our knowledge, then everyone comes up innocent and full of potential. And we learn more about love. Page of Cups. We become learners about love. We may have had this very high moment. I think of the old comment, what do you do before you're enlightened as a Buddhist monk? You chop wood and carry water. What do you do after you're enlightened? You chop wood and carry water. And so I think of this as enlightenment, and then we're learning some more about action, and we're daring ourselves, even though our little wings have been singed, to keep moving forward, sharing our ability to move upwards with others, with the public world. And we haven't killed our little dragon, we've tamed our little dragon. Like those cute little dragon movies that are out for little kids, How to Tame Your Dragon. And the oldsters want to kill the dragons, and the little kid goes, no, no. We're going to be friends with our dragons. So I look at this and that amuses me about that. So I'm sure some of you may have thought of something else or thought of it differently. Let's go back to what the general question was when laying out the cards, which was, let's have a reading about what's happening with the growth of this group and the growth in the world. So does anybody want to summarize it other than me? Go for it. I love hearing you. No. Oh, okay. I love you.
I don't want to summarize it, Sue, that's too much, but it does seem like so telling about how well the cards match each step. I mean, like, Eight of Pentacles couldn't be in a better spot. The Sun couldn't be in a better spot. The Knight of Wands, like, you know, like those cards are just, they fit the journey like so perfectly. It just amazes me.
That amazes me too. But I think that because the hero's journey is something that's told over and over and over ever since the beginning. I think I told you this, Kelly, that I look at my life and it's my life, so it's nothing. But when I began to put things down like this, I began to get a different perspective on my life, and I go, wow, that's really been something. Oh, now I see what was going on. And that helped me to put the cards down and start looking at my life in these terms.
Yeah.
I did a reading for how did I find Danny and what was the whole journey about? And the cards even went further ahead past the passing, past the death and what was coming of it. I was like, really? That's what this whole thing is about from beginning to end. So you can ask the cards about particular situations, events, people, circumstances in your life. That's a situation. And so you can use this reading over and over again, or you could decide, I know Denise recently lost a doggie, and she could put the cards down for what was that about with that animal, and what will be it about for my new animal. So, and you could build some awareness of what the journey with your new critter will be. And you won't miss anything, because then you'll have some idea of, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to do when they chew up my favorite slippers. So there's a lot of things these can be read for, and I think of it as perspective. So in the end, that was what I got my idea of this class, that it was about perspective of your life, or perspective of the journey, or perspective of what was going on in your life. So you could, if you decided you were standing on the precipice of starting out a new career, for example, let's say that you decide you want to see what your new career is going to be all about. then you could shuffle them up really good and lay the cards out for that. And it may give you an idea of what the new career is going to be. So if I wanted to say, if I'm going to just become a writer in my life, what will that be? And I would put the cards out to see what that's all about. Anything anybody else wants to say about it? Now, the other thing I taught you guys was I said that one of my old friends had taught me a different kind of layout that I thought would be fun to show you. And that she liked the idea that you could lay down more. When you read with oracle cards, they tell you a story. And in oracle card books, you typically lay down one card or two or three, and that's how you read them. And my friend taught me to lay down 5 cards or 7 and to intuitively pick which number I would like to have. And that, so I, the reader, would say to the person asking the question, pick me a number between 1 and 5, or I'd choose the number 7. So I'm going to, okay, who has a question about something? Speak now or hold your peace and get ahead of everybody else.
Oh.
Anybody want to ask anything?
Out loud or in our mind?
Oh, out loud. I'll ask.
All right. I want to ask, are my parents going to sell the house and move to Hawaii?
Okay, name me a number between 1 and 5.
3.
3, okay. So I'm going to lay down 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. These cards are kind of sticky. And 5. And I'm going to stick the 3rd card up. The 3rd card she picked out of the 5 is the present moment. And the cards on the back of it are the past, and the cards on the other side of it are the future. So that's just the way the layout goes. So in the past, the answer is yes, but in the past, her parents have probably been pretty steady and pretty stable. And they've, held on to their territory. This is the Emperor. These are shiny cards, sorry. They're not exactly
Hey,
good
Sue,
for showing.
If you
It's
stop
the Emperor.
sharing your screen, we can see the cards better.
Oh, good. Thank you, Brooke. Stop
Yeah.
sharing. Yay.
So the past is on which side?
The past is on the other one in cards 1 and 2. 3
Okay.
is the present moment. So in the past, her parents have been the Emperor. The Emperor is this guy who stays up on the mountain and keeps the robbers and wolves from going down into the beautiful valley down below. So he's very much into keeping his territory. In the past, I think they've become unhappy with where they're living. Why am I talking about where they're living? Because that's what she asked about, where they're living. And they've begun to, this is the Pope teaching the faithful. They've begun to talk about exactly what they believe in and what they want. So they must have decided that they want something new. And then here's the card where I said, yeah, they will, because it's the Wheel of Fortune. And that's a card, a key word for this is change. And so they're going to make a turn and look, they get settled in a new land. It's the Page of Pentacles, a person who's settling in a new place.
Wow.
So what do you
Wow.
think of that?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So,
Yeah.
so what if she had picked 1 or she had picked 5? That's where I get confused.
1 would be the present moment
So it's present and then everything else is future?
and everything else past its future. And so if she picked 5, out of 1 through 5, it would have been all about the past.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So who else wants to ask the question while we're at it?
I'll go.
Okay, let's ask one.
How long am I going to be in Ohio?
How long are you going to be in Ohio? Probably not long. I already figured that out. The question really is where you're going to. But okay. Name me, let's pick 1 through 7 because we haven't did that. Pick me a number between 1 and 7.
4.
4. Okay, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Oh, wow.
6, 7. Okay. And I know my little wire doesn't hold that well, but here's the one she picked. I stuck it up there. And the ones on the other side of it are the past. So she moved to Ohio for some reason, probably to work, to gain some sort of skill or work. But she figured out that this ain't it for me. I don't like it in Akron. I'm trying to do something new. I'm making an effort. I'm trying to get my energies together. And I've decided I need to be happy. That's right now. I want to be happy. No matter what's going on. Even if I have made a new start, I want to be happy now. I just don't know though. I'm stuck. This is the future. I'm stuck. I've got to tread carefully. This is the tread carefully card. Don't let yourself tread carefully. So this is the first card of the future. Tread carefully. Be blessed by the cosmos. Ask for the blessing, whatever you do. Make a new beginning. Step off that cliff with faith. So I think that you're at the point where this is the past card still, and this is the present. But I think that you've been thinking about it for a while and have had the urge that it's not so new. And what you've decided in the present is, I really want to be fat and happy. I really want to be happy, no matter what's going on. Is that helpful, Kiana?
It is. Thank you.
Yeah, it's just so.
How come you picked 5 for the first reading and 7 for the second reading?
Because I could. I just intuitively picked it.
Is it up to
I
you?
started to give her 5 too, but you'd already seen 5, so I said, well, let's give her 7. And then I shuffled them. And the shuffling is the call to the cosmos. Come on, help me tell this person this little story.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, who's next?
Oh, I'll be next. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was staring at Sean, but you didn't speak up. So we'll do
Can
you.
you see me? Because I
Hi,
can't.
Linda. No, I can't see you, but that's okay.
Oh.
So what's your question?
Should I get a new knee?
Okay. If I get a new knee, what will that be? What will happen? What do you
Yeah.
guys think? Should we do 7 or 5?
Let's do
5.
7.
5. Okay, we'll do 5. All right,
Thanks.
that's the first number I heard. Okay, Linda's new knee. 1, 2. And what number did you pick out of 1 through 5?
Oh, 2.
5. That's interesting. Okay. And here they are. Okay. And so
Okay.
the first one is I'm making the past is I'm trying to get to a new and calm place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The present time is, do I see my good? Can I figure out my good?
Okay. Mhm.
Third card, which is the first one of the future, is I've got to carefully consider and put on my little red courage cloak and move onwards. Okay.
Okay.
And I can tell you this from having a knee, you will have to practice your stretching. You will definitely. That's what Annie does for a living. You'll
Oh,
have to practice your PT, your OT. You'll have to work at it. So get
Yeah.
on your knee.
It's gonna be
Yes,
quite an
you're gonna have to
ordeal.
stretch. And you'll find balance, which is a good thing for having a new leg.
Yes.
Getting balance. So I think you're going to get a new knee, but I understand how tough it is to decide. I'm going to hold on to my second one as long as I can.
They just, I saw the Cairo today and he just said, I'm putting myself way out of balance by not doing it.
Yeah, that does happen. It comes to a point where you start wearing out your hip. I don't see I don't see Joni on here tonight. Or isn't that right, Joni? Yeah. So there comes a certain point where it begins to wear on other parts of the body. And if
Yeah.
you can't keep your balance together. So for example, long before I needed either one of my knees done, I was always getting my hips adjusted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand and thank you. Thank you very much.
What fun is that? And so the hero's journey is a complicated reading. And that's why I was showing you one that was a little less complicated, a little quicker answer. So the hero's journey is like a contemplation. You think about it. You put the cards down, you think about it. And I hope none of you were too bored with it, because we had quite a long trying to discuss and talk about it, maybe a little longer than it might take with some people. But do you have any questions about what we learned tonight about trying to get a perspective of what's going on in a situation, an event?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm encouraging y'all to practice with one another. I like Mighty Networks because you can communicate with one another. And if you can't find anybody you want to play with, you can tell my fortunes. I'm always up for it. I'm a fortune telling addict. So I love it. I'll try not to do the reading for myself in front of you, because I'm bad at it, aren't I, Brooke? I'm like, oh, that means. But it's fun. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
So where can we get that template that you have?
On the
I
Mighty
might have-
Networks.
I might have overlooked it somewhere.
Oh yeah, it's on there, isn't it, Kiana? This one and the other one that's fully colored is on there. There's a PDF you can
Okay.
that you
So
can PDF.
I've got to
certain-
look through the 1,000 emails. Okay.
Yeah, I was in. The Mighty Networks people say you need to post something every couple of days, so I have.
I don't think so.
That's how you build a group, they said. It's
Okay.
called the UX. Josh told me it was a UX, user experience, or something like that.
Okay.
Learning new abbreviations. Oh my God. So what else? I think we've done pretty good. And are you happy with this month's learning?
Yep.
Yep.
And if you want to talk to me, communicate on Mighty Networks so everyone can put in their 2 cents worth. And we'll just, I hope over time that instead of being quieter, the group will become louder and more dynamic in our community, so that we have a chance to really own what we're learning. And it's okay if you don't have much time in 1 month or 2 months. Some of us have been partying this month a lot. We've had a lot of activity for our kids or whatever, vacations. So it's all good, but so don't let that make you, where are you, Paula? We're all jealous. Are you?
I am sitting on my screened-in porch at my Airbnb
Nice.
and looking at Lake Superior.
Oh,
So that's my
Yay.
private little stony beach over there.
I
And
need
the
to-
sun will set. We've been watching the sunsets and storms.
And you saw loons today.
We did what?
Saw the loons, the loon in
Oh
the
yeah, we heard loons this morning. we've seen deer, and what else have we seen? It's amazing. It's just amazing to relax.
And the water's
Lots of
probably ice
waterfalls.
cold on Superior.
Actually, we're on Keweenaw Bay, a bay part of Lake Superior. So actually, it's been 85 to 90 here the last 2 days. So the water's actually really warm. It's just hard to get into because it's like so rocky.
Oh, bring me back a rock. please.
Okay, I will. Which one would you like? These are my rocks so far.
Glowing rocks.
An interesting one.
One of those glowing rocks. When you flash the
The
use
Uper light.
light.
I looked for them last night and I couldn't find any.
Oh,
But we'll be in St. Ignace on Saturday, so we'll look there too.
Cool.
Yeah. But I
I'm
found a lot of nice agate.